But it's where LeBron James and the Lakers are taking exception now to the Staples Center being referred to as a retirement home. That being because with all the free agency moves like acquiring 37-year-old Carmelo Anthony and 32-year-old Russell Westbrook, the average age on the team is about 33 years old. So LeBron tweeted, then deleted this. Quote, keep talking about my squad, our personnel ages, the way he plays, he stays injured, we're past our time in this league, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do me one favor, please, and I mean please, keep that same narrative energy when it begins. That's all I ask. Hashtag thank you. Okay, so experience over age clearly is the mentality for the Lakers this year. Will LeBron and the Lakers win the title next year, Max?
No, they won't, because they have not done enough to pass the Nets. They've done enough to be a real challenge, not one of these fake challenges where if the Nets are healthy like last year, oh, LA's healthy, the Nets are healthy, I think the Lakers are going to be. No, they weren't going to. No one was going to take a healthy Nets team 7 games. You saw what KD just with Kyrie, without James Harden last year, without Harden, who was game for game the best player in the league last year. Just KD and Kyrie were whooping up on the Bucks, who won the championship so bad early it was embarrassing. It was a mismatch. That without Harden, who is the glue guy, the guy who made it all work, who was running really D'Antoni's offense and all of that. Now, what's happened since then? If the Nets are healthy, they have, I want you to think about this carefully, Marcus Spears. They have, at their size, the 3 greatest all-around scorers. They can score from anywhere, who ever lived, at their size. You know, Harden's like 6'5". Yeah, I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan scoring the ball. I'm saying, show me anyone 6'2" who could score like Kyrie from anywhere. Free throw line, 3-point line, layup package with the handles, the whole thing. Same thing with Harden, same thing with KD at 6'11". 3 greatest scorers from anywhere who ever lived at their size. Now, what else do they have? We saw Blake Griffin posterize Giannis last year in the playoffs. Why is that significant? Blake's value was never because of some refined skill. It's because he could do that, and he's your 4th option. And Joe Harris is your 5th option. Now you got Patty Mills off the bench. I'm sorry, the Lakers made a lot. That Westbrook trade was amazing for them. People who criticize it are out of their minds. Second half of the season, Lakers will take off. They don't have enough shooting to beat the Nets, period.
So outscoring the Lakers is how you're building the Nets winning the championship. That's what you're saying, because you mentioned those 3 guys. Listen, first of all, let me say this. I mad respect for KD, Kyrie, and James Harden and what the Nets have done. But are you seriously going to sit on television and tell me that when you get to a 7-game series with LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook, that you just chalking it up as it being that easy to beat them in the playoffs? No. We've seen LeBron do this a number of times, Max. We've seen him as an underdog, down 3-1, be able to understand the game enough and figure out how to beat a basketball team with uber talent or a team that's more talented than them. When you look at what the Lakers did, here's the best part of what the Lakers did. They removed Anthony Davis from the 5 by bringing in Dwight Howard. That's the move that changes everything for the Lakers. Last year, we had this conversation, and barring health, but health is talked about with both of these teams. As long as they're healthy, you're going to hear that 1,000 times from now until the basketball season and until we get to the finals. And Lord knows I'm praying that I hope both of them meet up in the finals. I understand all that you just said, but here's the thing about basketball. And you've talked about this a bunch, Max. Usually the best team wins. You're talking about 3 guys right now. And we're mentioning the big 3 guys. I want the team that's led by LeBron James. I don't care who playing on the other side. As long as the talent is not a big discrepancy, which I don't think it is, because we're still talking about AD as a top 5 player in his position of all time. We're still talking about Russell Westbrook, who's going to put pressure on Kyrie or James or whoever is guarding him to play both ends of the court. We're still talking about LeBron James. You bring Dwight Howard in to be a guy around the rim to protect the rim. I understand about Blake Griffin, but dude, the Lakers ain't gonna be worried about Blake Griffin in no damn final series. They gonna be interested in making sure that they take away one or two of these guys that you just mentioned as that front court 4-3. Now, let's get to the part about the game, like the actual end game and what type of adjustments will be made. Here's the deal, Max. When the Bucks were playing the Nets and when we were watching that game, we had Giannis who didn't want to go out and defend KD in crunch time situations. We understand that KD is the best scorer that we've ever seen in the NBA. But KD going to have to play both ends of the floor too.
He can.
And Kyrie Irving is going to have to play both ends of the floor.
He can
and James
too,
Harden is going to have to play both ends of the floor.
Not so much with Harden.
Listen, Max, do you think there will be any level of comfort on Kyrie Irving when he has
Let me
to
say
deal
this.
with Russell
I
Westbrook
think this is what I think, Marcus. I think the Lakers give them a real series. I think that before they acquired Westbrook, people were deluding themselves. Now that they have Westbrook, they have a legitimate answer to the Nets. They're the one team in the league, if everyone's healthy, that has a legitimate answer. I don't know if it's the right answer, but it is a legitimate answer. I think that's an extended series. It's going to be tough. Here's the difference. When you just brought up Dwight Howard, for example, Dwight Howard with AD, LeBron, and Westbrook, no one of anyone I just mentioned shoots the ball over average for their position. And at the 4, AD probably doesn't even shoot it average. If you call him a 5, he probably does. Dwight does only in the paint. LeBron's not a pure shooter. He shoots it well enough as a 3 or a 4. Westbrook doesn't shoot it well enough. And so you're starting Wayne Ellington, I guess, and that's your best shooter on the floor. There's not, they're going to be vicious to the rest of the league. But when you match up against the Nets team with Kyrie, Harden, Harris, Blake, and KD, of course they're not worried about Blake. If he's the number 1 or 2 option, he's your 4th option. Joe Harris is the best 5th option, fifth option, and he's always going to be open. Always. Because you're going to have to double guys. When you look at LeBron, and he came back down 3-1 against that super team Warriors team, once they added KD, they ran up the white flag in Cleveland. They had nothing they could do. I don't even blame them. It's just too much on one team. And when you look at that Warriors team...
it's not even close to this situation, Max.
He has, instead of Kevin Love, he has Westbrook as his number 3. That's a big thing. What I'm saying is, this Nets team, when healthy, has more offensive firepower than that Warriors team that LeBron didn't have a shot against.
And fortunately, you play defense in basketball too. And we always
that's why it'll be a good series.
We forget that you got to do that. Like a lot of people forget because we get enamored with talking about how well James, KD, and Kyrie are on the offensive side of the court. There's another side that pressure will be put on them. Max, them buckets ain't that easy with Dwight Howard standing in the paint. Them buckets ain't that easy. You still got to put in extra work on the defense. You have to put in extra work on the defensive end of the court as well. Listen, let me say this too. When we look at the Bucks and Nets, right? I'm going back. That's a terrible matchup for the Milwaukee Bucks. It's terrible because Giannis doesn't have a perimeter game. Giannis doesn't have a perimeter game. We know exactly what Giannis is going to do. I like Harden-Tucker. I like Harden-Tucker, especially with open looks. You talking
also
about
not a
the
great
Nets
shooter.
I
like
looks.
him too. He's not a good shooter.
What you think the Lakers are going to do?
This is what I think the Lakers are going to do, Marcus. This is what I think they're going to do. And I tweeted it out as soon as they made the Westbrook trade. It was an amazing trade. They traded spare parts for Russell freaking Westbrook, who every year plays with new teammates on a new team, takes the first half of the season to figure it out. Everyone says he's over, he's no good anymore. Then by the second half of the season, they figure it out together, and he's an MVP caliber player. It's an amazing move. And I tweeted out when they made the move. They have a legitimate answer to Brooklyn. Brooklyn will shoot it better. The Lakers will defend it better. The Lakers have more athletes, like Russell Westbrook and LeBron James as athletes. That's tough to match up with. That's why it's going to be a series. But in terms of the way the parts fit together, you're going to have to score, if the Nets are healthy, 130-plus points a night to beat them. You ain't going to beat them with 115 points.
I just don't understand.
It's going to be the greatest offense in the history of American team sports.
Max, do you not believe, let's have an honest conversation on television because people are watching us.
Yes.
Do you think that the Lakers will not be able to match points with the Brooklyn Nets?
Correct.
You believe that?
I believe it. Correct. Lakers will match points with a lot of teams.
Absolutely false,
the Nets are going to
Max.
be tough.
That's absolutely false, bro. That's absolutely false. Because you still are not acknowledging the fact that you got to do it on both ends. The space. What you mean the space?
Actually, you know what,
Max,
Marcus? When you bring up
James
defense,
is still playing for the Lakers. Max,
here's another problem.
Max, LeBron is still playing for the Lakers.
I hear you. Here's another problem when you bring up the Lakers defense. Because the Nets have more complete players on offense, right? The big three where it's concentrated can do everything. The fit is easier. So the problem with the Lakers is they recognized we need shooting around these guys, right? So they brought in shooters, but they gave up in terms of guys who are going to get minutes, length, and a little defense. So they have their offense is concentrated in three guys who can also play defense but not shoot it really well. The shooters that they brought in, now it means they can't switch the same way. It's not that the Lakers won't be a devastating team by the second half of the season. They will be. But the fits are not as easy as in Brooklyn, who have also had a full year to play together and brought in Patty Mills off the bench.
We got to leave this conversation, guys. We know one thing. You talk about athletes on the Lakers. They have
we need
5 players
left.
signed with at least 8 or more All-Star selections. That's the most of any team in history. So we'll see if that whole experience over age mentality plays out
Charlie,
the way that they want it to.
It's the first time Swagoo smiled in 20 minutes.
Well, we love to see you smile. Keep smiling.
How did I keep this guy from smiling?
We'll be back in just a second, everybody, because my squad, Indy, has a conundrum on their hands. I am not smiling about this. Do they bring back Rivers, or will it be deja vu all over again with Foles saving the day for Carson Wentz? Plus,